Welcome to Beyond the Numbers, the podcast where conversations about wealth go deeper. This isn't about flashy success or one-size-fits-all advice. It's about real people designing financial lives that align with who they are, what they value, and the legacies they're building. We bring together voices from business, finance, law, and leadership to talk about the moments that shape them and the strategies that sustain them. Here is your host, Chris Everett.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Numbers, where money meets meaning and purpose. Today's guest has spent more than 3 decades at the intersection of technology, justice, and trust. He's built a career that bridges 2 worlds most people see as separate, the cutting edge of innovation of blockchain and cryptocurrency, and the careful, methodical work of law enforcement and forensic investigation. So with over 10,000 contacts across the industry, he's become a trusted resource for recovering stolen digital assets and helping victims of crypto fraud find justice. But his expertise goes far beyond just chasing criminals. He's also a pioneer in using blockchain technology to protect something even more fundamental to our society, the integrity of our democratic elections. So from his work as a certified financial crimes investigator to his leadership roles across multiple blockchain ventures, he's dedicated his career to making new technologies accountable and making them work for people. So whether that means recovering funds for fraud victims, restoring trust in democratic processes, or helping highly regulated industries find the right leadership for compliance and risk management. As founder of Twin Oaks Holdings, president of IT Audit Search, and executive managing director at Smart Ballots, today's guest embodies what Beyond the Numbers is all about, using financial expertise and technology, not just to chase profit, but to produce purpose and restore meaning to systems people depend on. So with all that said, please help me welcome Ralph Dahm. Ralph, welcome to Beyond the Numbers.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here.
Well, I'll tell you what, you have such a journey of purpose. And it's spanned over 30 years. So take us back to the beginning. How did you get started in this field, and what drew you to the intersection of technology and financial investigations?
It really begins back in the early days of Bitcoin back in 2013. I've been working in executive search and placement, finding regulatory compliance talent for banks, financial institutions, accounting firms. And this new thing called Bitcoin was coming out. That was $17 at the time, about $80,000 today. A lot of growth there, but it was being used to circumvent the anti-money laundering laws for banks, tax laws, of course, and other nefarious purposes. So I studied more of that. I was getting more involved in financial crimes, forensic accounting. And people think, forensic accounting, you need to be an accountant, a CPA. You don't. You're just looking for patterns. Criminals tend to have the same patterns time and again when committing crimes, and if you can recognize those patterns, you can follow the trail to lead to a prosecution and recovery of stolen funds. Whether it's a fake invoice scam or whether it's a fake investment scam, a romance scam, it's all the same. When cryptocurrency is involved, that's just a different medium. And so what we do is chase the money, chase the bad guys to find a conclusion. So moving forward, I worked through financial crimes investigations, learned more and more about blockchain and digital currencies, how they were being abused, and dedicated a lot of time to finding recovery for victims. There's over $150 billion stolen every year from U.S. citizens. Every year, $150 billion, and very little recourse. So when a person is a victim of this crime, say you lose $500,000, not a big case, by the way. What do? Well, they go to local law enforcement who will say, how could you be so stupid? Not helpful. They'll take a police report and will forget about it because they don't have the tools, training, and knowledge to follow through in most cases. Some are better than others. But even if you do work with the police department, sometimes it goes to the state's attorneys for a subpoena to the exchange where we find the money, and they won't take the case because the criminal is located offshore. Transnational organized crime might be some 20-year-old being held prisoner in Cambodia in one of the camps, and who are you going to prosecute? And recovering the money doesn't seem to be a priority.
So not only do you lose a lot of money, I mean, and you said 500 million isn't even the largest, but for people even losing $25,000 or $50,000, that's annoying. But then to be told you're stupid on top of it, boy, what a cherry on top of the cake.
That's a lot of money to them, right? Had a case last week, a woman lost a relatively small amount, $27,000, but it was money she had borrowed at 40% interest. There's a crime right there.
Oh,
To take advantage of this investment opportunity, which turned out to be a total fraud. So now not only is she out the money, she's on the hook for a $27,000 loan at 40% interest.
my God.
That's how these crimes compound. It looks like too good to be true. Maybe it is. And people are just, they want to better themselves. Here's an opportunity. They keep hearing about Bitcoin's rising in value. Look at how it's doing. And don't want to miss out. And next thing you know, they don't do the due diligence and they become taken advantage of. Or it's a romance scam. We had a case in France last year. A woman who had a very good relationship with Brad Pitt.
You stalled.
Electronic texting all the time. Did we just lose it again?
Start with, we had a case. You said it wasn't always financial. Start there, please.
We had a case last year, a romance scam, where a woman in France was communicating with Brad Pitt. They developed a months-long relationship. It was to the point where he wanted to marry her. You're my fiance. She'd sent pictures of him in the hospital saying, oh, I need money for treatment. I can't afford this. And she started sending him money. And then eventually she divorced her husband and took the $800,000 settlement from the divorce and sent it to Brad Pitt, who promptly disappeared because it was just a total scam. And she caught on when she was watching the news and saw Brad Pitt at a movie premiere with his real fiance and said, hey, wait a minute, I'm the fiance. Oh, yeah. And she is now homeless with little chance of recovering any of the money. And we see this all the time. And there was a case last week. A gentleman lost $282 million in a 30-minute phone call. A fake tech support. His bank called him and said, hey, there's trouble with your account. We need your help. And over the period of 30 minutes, talked him into giving up his passwords, the 2FA code text that came back, and drained his account. And now it's a merry chase to try to find it. And again, it's these same transnational criminals preying on American citizens and the rest of the world. I mean, it's estimated $1 trillion is stolen every year globally. I'm just talking about the U.S. market. And one of the problems we find is it's difficult to get law enforcement to assist. So once we find the money, how do we get it back? We have to issue a subpoena to the exchange where we find it. But I can't do that. I don't have subpoena authority. It has to be a police detective, state's attorney, district attorney in Illinois. They won't take these cases. Unfortunately for Illinois. St. Louis, I just was talking to a detective last week, and they have great success in recovering money. They're very proactive. 2 neighboring states, one will get results, one will not. So a lot of it depends on where you are. And if you happen to be in a state that does not understand what you have to do to recover money, what does the victim do?
It's crazy.
So one of the things I'm trying to do is make other relationships so we can go direct to the exchanges, to third parties that have subpoena authority, that have worked with these folks and can get restitution. So it is possible. We're seeing more and more recoveries take place. One potential partner I'm talking to now recovered $15 million and has another $100 million frozen going through the process. I mean, the numbers are staggering how much money is being stolen.
So does it look like you're going to get that back for him?
Looks like it. It does. Very, very high level of confidence. And another case, though, in, I'll just say Puerto Rico, where we discovered the money. It was $440,000, and we found it on 3 different exchanges, sent the information to law enforcement, and silence. It doesn't do any good for us to do this. If they wait 2-3 weeks to get back to us, the money's moving again.
Yeah.
We gotta wait until it lands at a liquidation point, and it is the problem. So one of the challenges is finding a way to work with law. I'm not blaming law enforcement. They don't have the tools, don't have the training, don't have the time, and crypto cases are low priority versus homicide, versus kidnapping, versus child sexploitation. And you want them to focus on those cases, and they do, but we do need some effort. Maybe it's at the national level where we can get more concrete tools to act quickly when we discover where these funds are located. Now, are we going to be able to prosecute people? Probably not. You're not going to subpoena somebody in one of these camps in Cambodia that literally they're huge. They're like large apartment buildings with hundreds of apartments. Each one's got 4 to 5 people in there. They've been lured to Cambodia with the promise of a high-paying job. Their documents are taken away when they arrive. They're put under guard. Here's 20 telephones, cell phones. Go text Americans, steal money. If you get enough money stolen today, you get to eat tonight.
Wow.
If you don't get any money, maybe we beat you.
Let's focus for a second the other side of the human crypto recovery work. So someone comes to you, they've been defrauded. They lost their life savings in a crypto scam. What does that first conversation look like? What do you tell them?
First, we gather the facts. They're very important. What happened? What type of a scam was it? Was it a fake investment scam? Let's check out the website where they went to see how long it's been running. This company's been around for 20 years and the website's 2 months old. There's a red flag right there.
Hello. Yeah.
Yep. So what we do is we have a conversation. What happened? How much money did you send? Date, time, amount. What was the payment made? Was it a wire transfer? Did you do cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, for example, from Coinbase? How did the money go from you to the scammer? I need all the information. Give me the information of the scammer. If you have a wallet address, that's great. And we take it from there. But they have to understand that before I do anything, I'm going to do a preliminary analysis. And I'm not going to charge money for that because maybe the money cannot be recovered. Let's say you lost $30,000, a relatively small amount, and the scammer took it to Coinbase, cashed it out to dollars, pesos, whatever, and it's off the blockchain. It's gone forever. Nothing you can do. And many times we have to give bad news that your money cannot be recovered. But better find out that without paying large retainers.
I lost you just now. You started to say sometimes we can't recover it, but better. And then you stop.
Sometimes we can't recover the money because it gets converted very quickly from Bitcoin to dollars or pesos, and the money is taken off the blockchain. Then I have to deliver the news that your money is gone forever and cannot be recovered. However, it's better to do that without paying a retainer up front, good money after bad, so to speak. Which brings up the topic of recovery firms. Just go to Facebook. There's dozens and dozens of ads on quote-unquote recovery firms.
You stop that,
we can get
go
your
to
money back
Facebook,
in
and there's
48
dozens
hours.
and dozens of, and then I don't hear anything else.
Yeah, dozens and dozens of fake recovery firms promising the capability of quickly recovering your stolen Bitcoin. All of these are false. These are all fake companies. They want your money and then they disappear. And so you say, why does Facebook allow this? And the reason is they earn $13 billion in ad revenue from these ads. So
oh my Lord.
Said, we could eliminate the ads. What's it going to cost us? $13 billion. Keep the ads running.
That's ridiculous.
Not terribly helpful.
So what percentage of these cases can you actually help with recovery?
It's very low. 2 to 5% see recovery at this point. If we had more tools, more cooperation with law enforcement agencies, that number will rise in time. And the forensic tools are getting better. So, many years ago when it was on the blockchain, it's totally anonymous. It's gone. Because a lot of times these scammers will take your money. It's on Bitcoin. Then they move it to another blockchain. They go through a washing process, if you will, bridgers, mixers, and all that, and try to hide it, or Tornado Cash. And we can follow that now. We can do cluster tracing. And it's not unusual.
Yeah, then, it's probably, first of all, I'm glad we're shining a light on this. But number two, walk us through how the blockchain tracing actually works. Like for someone who's never thought about it, how can transactions that are supposedly anonymous be traced?
Okay. One, they are anonymous. See, we cannot see names. All I see when a blockchain trace takes place, say from point A to point B, call that a hop. All right, $100,000 moved on this date from this wallet to that wallet. And we can see that it was then divided into 15 other transactions called hops. And we trace each one of those to see where they go. Some are tenths of a cent. It's a false trail, and you got to find the right trail. What I see is simply a wallet address. There's no way to identify who it is. But we can follow the trail until it lands on a liquidation point, meaning it's on an exchange. Take Binance, for example. And then we can issue a subpoena to Binance for the KYC information to identify who set up this wallet. So if it's a U.S. citizen, well, right here, now you have a chance for prosecution. Usually it's not. But while we do that, we also send a preservation letter to freeze the money so that it can be seized and returned to law enforcement.
So I can see why you have to take immediate action once you recognize you've been defrauded.
The sooner the better, although I'm working on cases that are 8 years old. Where the money was stolen 8 years ago, and just for whatever reason had not been reported because Bitcoin was only $250 8 years ago. Now it's at 90,000, so you have a $2.5 million case worth $800 million. Now you have an incentive to keep chasing these folks. As the value of Bitcoin rises, your investment, you want to get, if they lost 10 Bitcoin, we want to get 10 Bitcoin back at today's price, not at the price 8 years ago. And all that information is there. And no information goes away. It's immutable. I can look all the way back to the beginning of Bitcoin time, which is January 9th of 29, I think, and see every transaction that ever was. And it's a vast amount of data, which is why we use artificial intelligence enhanced tool, and we're frozen again. This is why we use artificial intelligence, because it can sort vast amounts of data very quickly. Because there's huge amounts of data, millions and millions of wallet addresses and transactions that we need to sort through. And using artificial intelligence tools and cluster tracing, we can quickly find the trail where the real money went, and hopefully able to take some kind of action to freeze it and recover the money for the victim.
Got it. So you work with law enforcement agencies worldwide, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, many countries.
What are the biggest challenges in helping them understand and utilize blockchain evidence?
One is it's an educational process. And you start talking Bitcoin, pretty much everyone has heard of Bitcoin. You start talking blockchain transactions and hops and hot wallets, cold wallets, and all of the jargon. It's like, well, what is all this? And it's just an educational process. We try to make it as simple to understand as possible. And it's not a mystery. And when we get a report, when it's finished and presented to law enforcement, we convert all the technical jargon into legalese. So it's very easy to understand. If someone stole $1,000 from a business, it would be a very simple case. It's the same thing with blockchain tracing. It's just digital currency. There's nothing magical about it, just a different form of payment and a different type of trail. Highly technical, but needs to be presented in a way that prosecutors and judges can understand what you're talking about. It's not a time to show off my technology skills. Hey, I understand all these weird things and heuristic monitoring and all that. Nobody cares. How do we get from point A to point B? Why should I give you a subpoena?
Exactly.
Answer that question, you got a better chance of affecting recovery. So a lot of it is training and educating not only the public to avoid victims in the future, but also law enforcement, how we can partner with them.
Also the legal system too, right? They need to understand.
Just started a major move to work with law firms. They get a lot of big cases, and they have subpoena authority, so they would like to work with people who can trace stolen funds and give them a very high-quality report that will stand up under court scrutiny so they can make a presentation and obtain the subpoenas and warrants and preservation letters required to get a recovery for their clients. A lot of clients are businesses. This is not just individuals. Corporations, one lost in a phone conversation $5 million. It was a fake AI-generated CEO message to a CFO and asked him to transfer $5 million for a company they were buying. Had to be done right now before the competition got it. And next day in the office, the CEO is at the office when the CFO walks in. He said, "Why did you send $5 million? I did what you told me to do. You called me last night." No, he didn't. That's how good AI is getting. People can be duplicated in real time, have real-time conversations, and you think you're talking to someone you've known for years, and it's a total AI scam.
So, Ralph, this podcast is called Beyond the Numbers because I believe our financial decisions should connect to meaning and purpose. So when you look at your work recovering stolen assets, protecting elections, and helping organizations find ethical leadership with deeper purpose, what deeper purpose really drives you?
My purpose is finding justice for the victims that seem to be overlooked in all this. There's over 880,000 new victims every year just in the United States who file a report with the FBI through the ic3.gov website. And only 1 in 20 are estimated to report a crime. So it may be 20 times higher than that number. It's an epidemic. And national wealth is being transferred to scammers, foreign and domestic, mostly overseas. And there's no recourse. If you file a report on ic3.gov, good luck. You're going to wait a long time to hear anything. I was a victim of a scam once myself, filed the IC3 report, still waiting to hear from them. That was in 2018. You're not going to hear back unless your case is big, like 5 million or more, because they're overwhelmed. There's only so many people, and you get 880,000 new cases a year. You've got to have a structure to handle it, and you can only take the higher priority cases. The little guy is not going to get justice. So federal government is out, state government, hit or miss. Maybe they'll help you, maybe not. Local police department probably doesn't understand what you're talking about. what do you do as a victim? And we're seeing a lot of victims in total despair. They've lost their life savings in many cases. And I've seen a number of suicides. People will just, it's over, there's nothing I can do, there's no hope, and they take their life. Well, we try to provide hope, if hope is available. And so we do an initial evaluation of the case and estimate the probability of the recovery of their money. It may take some time, but at least there's a chance. It doesn't mean the sun won't come up tomorrow. And we may be able to recover the money. We're going to give it everything we can, bring in the resources that we have available to help on this case, and try to get justice for the victims who have nowhere to go, and they really don't understand it either. They promised a romance scam, somebody's going to marry me, need a little bit of help with money. Next thing you know, my life savings is gone, and the guy disappears, or it's a fake investment site. Oh, look, my $100,000 investment is now worth $2 million. It's all fake. And their life savings is gone. It's just someone trying to improve themselves a little bit. No, I can invest and make some money on Bitcoin because everybody hears about it, digital currency. And the whole thing is just rife with fraud. And people are not understanding what they're doing. Another major source of crime and fraud in the Bitcoin world are the Bitcoin ATMs.
So I've never seen a Bitcoin ATM.
Usually they're hanging around the gas stations. You'll see a Bitcoin ATM machine. I know here in Chicago, there's 1,100 alone with one company. So you can go in there with a wad of cash in your hand. It's not unusual to see an old person sitting there with $50,000 and $100 bills, shoving it in the machine, which the Bitcoin machine, the company operating it, takes up to 30% as a fee for doing it.
Oh, my Lord.
Staggering, right? And then the money is converted to Bitcoin and sent to a wallet for the scammer, right? But the Bitcoin machine operator doesn't perform KYC. So they have no idea where the money went. So now, let's see, I think New York.
This is insane. How is it even legal that those machines are on the street?
Well, they started small and came up, and all of a sudden the scammers realized this is a way to get around law enforcement, because once the money's in the machine, it's gone.
And you chose to put the money in the machine, so...
That's exactly what they say. You chose to put the money, you sat there and put it in. Nobody forced you to do it, right? So there's a lot of victim blaming there, but... It's a scam like any other confidence scam, but there are new laws being passed. I think Minnesota, California, and I think Connecticut banned them outright. Illinois passed a law, Senator Mark Walker, last August, the Illinois Digital Kiosk Law that regulates Bitcoin ATMs. So they need a $2 million performance bond. They need to lower their fees to a reasonable rate, which they said was 18%. I still think that's unreasonable. And if a victim loses money, the operator of that ATM has to refund the money.
Oh, that's interesting. So that that slows down some of those machines putting points. Yeah.
That's what's going to put them out of business. Slow down some of the fraud, but these machines are everywhere. There's thousands and thousands all over the country, and it's just you just walk in anonymously, boom, you put your money in, you're done.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're shining a little light on this. I hope it gets, I hope people tend to share this message as widely as possible. Let me ask you this. What advice would you give to someone who wants to use their financial or technical skills to make a real difference in people's lives the way you have? Like, what would you tell them to do?
First thing I would do is learn as much as possible. You never stop learning. I take certifications pretty much on a monthly basis now to learn new techniques, new tricks of the trade. But in terms of general help, the best thing we can do is educate the public and avoid victims in the first place. I've been reaching out to organizations like ARP and other victim assistance groups. Happy to talk anywhere, write articles, make an appearance, educate people on what are the red flags of fraud. No, Brad Pitt is not going to be your fiancé. No, you're not going to make a $10 million profit on a $500 investment.
Yeah.
That's too good to be true. It probably is. If your bank calls you and the caller ID says it's Chase Bank, hang up, call the bank back.
Great advice right there.
Right there. A tremendous amount of bank tech support calls, the spoofing calls. Frankly, I don't know why the phone companies are allowed to let people spoof a bank number. Why should I be able to impersonate Chase Bank, for example? Happens all the time. And of course, then it's kind of a confidence game. So they're talking to the victim. Well, this is the bank. The bank is in. I know we got some employees here trying to steal your money. So go to the bank and take money out. Don't tell them what's going on. They'll try to talk you out of it, but that's part of the
that
scam.
Should be your first clue. Don't tell them.
Don't tell anybody, right?
Oh, Lord.
Pick up the phone, call your bank, go online and check your account. Everything's fine. A lot of fake tech support calls. I got one myself last week. It actually was Chase Bank. Hey, somebody charged $2,000 on your credit card. Really? Oh, that's terrible. What can I do to help? Well, we can fix this. And just let them on. It's always a request for money at some point. I said, but just one question. I don't own a Chase credit card. Whoops. And he hung up. Yeah.
It's not funny, and I know I laughed.
It's not fun. But sometimes you get on these calls, I just like to keep them going on and on, waste their time, because if they're wasting their time with me, they're not stealing money from somebody else.
So for listeners who want to learn more about how to protect themselves from crypto fraud, or if they've been victimized and need help, what resources would you point them to, aside from reaching out and calling you?
Okay, we should pause there for a little bit. What resources would I recommend? Well, first I'd recommend, of course, you can go to my website at ralphdahm.com. There's all the articles I write about the different types of scams. I published documentation identifying what is a scam, how they work, how they try to gain your confidence. There's resources where you can obtain help. Of course, you can always call me. I can evaluate your case at no cost to see what we can do. Join groups. Get involved with ARB. They have a magazine, and pretty much every month there's an article about the types of fraud going out there. We need to educate people more on what they can do to protect themselves. So if we want to help people, I think we should have a public service announcement on every broadcast station every single day, not just once a month or when there's a ratings thing. But we need to get the word out that these scams exist, because most people don't know what's going on. They haven't heard about it. They get a call out of the blue. Hey, this is your bank, and there's a problem with your account. Immediately the tension rises. It's always pressure to act quickly. Don't think about what you're doing. You got to move quick to save your money. And that's just a common scam technique, or a fake investment scam. How do I know if a website is real or not? How do I know if this investment company is real? People don't know. They can go to whois.com, click on Whois, type in the website. It will tell you when that website domain was established. If it was 2 months ago, it's probably not a 20-year-old firm.
That's right.
There's a clue. There's things you can do that the average person doesn't know about that. And how do you educate them on that? And then you get the elderly that, there's some confusion there anyway. And they are not up on the technology. They've kind of heard about it. So here's an opportunity to do the right thing. They gain their confidence. And next thing you know, the life savings disappears. There's one gentleman in Oklahoma last year, $5 million. The family didn't know what he was doing. And he had dementia, still had his cell phone. There's a clue. And so he's making bank transfers to, I think Lisa was her name. It was a beautiful Asian woman is the picture. It's probably some 20-year-old boy in Cambodia in a prison camp, but $5 million gone. And now the family is destitute. It's just that quick. And you be aware of, like, check in on your neighbors, check on your family members, educate them. If you get a call from your grandson saying, hey, Grandpa, the police got me, I'm in jail, I need $10,000 right now. One, you could say, well, have fun. Or two, you can say, let me call the police department and check. Call your grandson back on the phone, and obviously it'll be a fake call.
Right. Well, Ralph, this has been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate what you do and how you've educated my audience today. So for those of you who want to learn more, please take a look at ralphdahm.com. That's Ralph, RalphDahm.com. Or you could go to his LinkedIn page, or visit twinoakscrs.com. And thank you for today. Thank you for being a valuable asset in our community and, frankly, around the world. Have a blessed day. Yeah, you have a blessed day.
Appreciate you having me. Take care.
Thanks, Ralph.
Yep. Goodbye.
Beyond the Numbers podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.